I'm here again to share two more schools with you guys that give full ride scholarships. Hi everyone, how you guys doing? So first of all, I want to wish you guys a happy new year. Thank you so much for always sticking around. I pray that 2023 will be a good year for you and even way better than you could have imagined. By the way, kindly ignore the microwave in the background. Just pretend that's not there. I recently moved here and I'm still trying to figure out the best place to record, or the best place, like the best backgrounds and everything. I'm still setting things up, so for now maybe this is what we're going to keep having. So today I'm here again to share two more schools with you guys that give full ride scholarships, or full aid, if we put it that way, to international students. And without saying too much, let's get into it. The first school we're going to be talking about is Colgate University, and yeah, here we are on the website, and it's a university in Hamilton, New York. If you scroll down, you can see that down there. But it's got 56 majors that you can apply for, options, and it's a liberal art university as well, as far as I can see here. And it's got a ratio of 9:1, students to faculty, which I think is awesome, because it really helps you to, if you have a smaller ratio, it helps you to have a better relationship with your professors and more likely to do well in school and stuff like that. So loans for students with family income, certain amount of family income is 0, so they are down to cover your aid or cover your tuition pretty much to help you get that education. Just scrolling down just so you have an idea what we have. But yeah, right there, Hamilton, New York. And what we're going to do is go over to their admission section and go specifically to international students. See if I can find that, or maybe here. Can't remember where it was when I came. Okay, there we go. So international applicants. So yeah, it's free to apply. So number one, it's free for international students to apply to Colgate, regardless of whether you're American or you're international. They are totally down to cover things. And also it says here explicitly that Colgate meets 100% of every international student's demonstrated financial need. That's very clearly stated. Language proficiency is there. It says you can use TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo for non-native English-speaking students. But it also goes on to say for non-native English-speaking students who do not study at a secondary school where English is the primary language of instruction. So for example, if you were Nigerian, or if you were from another English-speaking country, a country where English is the first language, then you do not have to do an English proficiency test, which is awesome, because a lot of schools are waking up these days to see that it's very redundant to keep asking for English proficiency from people who study in English-speaking schools or English-speaking countries. So they do not require English proficiency tests if you're from an English-speaking country. So let's see, financial aid. So if you read on, it says Colgate offers need-based financial aid, meeting 100% of every admitted student's demonstrated need. So yeah, it's really nice. And then it goes on to say international students must submit the CSS profile by the application deadline. And basically, I think the CSS profile is, it assesses your need for financial aid during your application. So the whole process to apply, including submission of the CSS profile, is all on their website, and we're gonna just kind of scroll through. Okay, so let's go to regular decision. Okay, so application requirements for regular decision. You can go over to the early decision to see things for yourself. I think it would pretty much be the same thing. But yeah, you have to use Common Application, Coalition, or QuestBridge. That's pretty common for a lot of schools. Then you have your application fee, which we already looked at before. That's free. For international students, you don't have to go through a special process to get a waiver. It says the application fee is already waived, so you don't have to apply specifically for a waiver. It's just waived when you're starting the application process. So you also have to submit your recommendations, of course, as usual, your guidance counselor recommendations, your high school transcripts, like always. If it's not in English, you have to provide a translated version of it, of your high school transcripts. And media grades, I spoke about this in my last video. Media grades doesn't tend to apply to international students. I talked about this in my last video, and that's because most international students apply to these schools when they're already done with high school. But here you have students a lot of times apply while they're still in like their 11th year, 11th grade. So if you're in that case, then you still have to turn in your 12th year grade, and that's what the media grades is about. So if it doesn't apply to you, just ignore it. But if you need more information, you can just Google and you see clarification about that. Then there's supplemental stuff that you can provide. So you have the opportunity to choose any of these 3 prompts to answer something about yourself, to say something about yourself, and just write. They want to see you beyond just the application forms. So you can choose any of these prompts. For example, Colgate students immerse themselves in social and intellectual pursuits that inspire them. Tell us in 250 words what inspires you and why you want to pursue that at Colgate. You know, and like they say, it's not meant to feel like an essay. It's meant to just be you expressing yourself, and it's optional, so you don't have to do it if you don't want to. And it says that if you don't submit this response, you're not at a disadvantage in the application process. I mean, they say that, but I feel like if you were to submit something like this, it would probably make a difference consciously for them. So you also have the option to submit your SAT or ACT scores, so it's not required. These schools are just being so awesome, like compared to before. Like things like this were not optional in the past, but thankfully, yeah, it's optional to submit your SAT, ACT scores up until 2026. Super awesome. So I think that if you have a really good SAT score and you think that it might help with them deciding about you, then you should definitely submit your SAT scores. So this is very similar to one of the schools that I talked about in my last video, but this school provides the opportunity for you to submit something about you that's not related to your education, your academics. So for example, if you have a social media presence that's like really growing and it's big, just something about your talent, you can submit that. Something about sports, athletics, art, all those kind of things that help you to show your special talent. You can submit those things with your application, and they have their application deadlines, so make sure to go through that to know what would work best for you when you apply. And with that, you also have the links to look into the CSS profile, because you do have a deadline to apply for financial aid. So right here is information about submitting your CSS profile as an international student right there. Deadline is January the 15th, and application opens October 1st. So that tells us that it's pretty much for only fall admission. If you also go down, you see here it says international students currently receiving financial aid do not need to reapply for aid annually. So you'll automatically be reviewed every year, for your aid. And yeah, you can look at some of the majors, look at what they have going on. See, they have all that stuff, so make sure you look into that, see what you're interested in. Actually, when I looked here, I was disappointed to see that they didn't have nursing, I think. Oh, they do have neuroscience. That's really chill. But yeah, I don't think I saw nursing. Let me just find it. Nah. Well, who knows? Maybe it might be somewhere under like health sciences or something like that. Anyways, yeah, that's what they have. So the second school I'll be talking about today is the University of Richmond, and that's in Virginia. And here's the website, pretty colorful. So we can go over to the admission page, and and we can click on admission process and see what we have. One thing that they say here is the University of Richmond reviews each and every application individually. In our holistic selective admission process, there is no typical applicant and no simple formula to guarantee acceptance. So they just look at everyone differently, you know, holistically, which is something that you see in a lot of schools now. It's not just about your grades or, you know, certain things only. They look at a lot of other things that you have to offer, which is nice, which is why it's nice to talk about things like your talents, you see that, your essays, and just you as an individual. Really, really nice. Admission deadlines, or application deadlines rather, then scholarships. Okay, so let's go over to international admission. On the international students page, it says the University of Richmond has adopted a test optional admission path also for first year students entering in 2023. So they're also doing that, just like the other schools that we have seen recently. And students for whom English is not their native language must submit official test results from either TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo, or meet blah blah blah. Yeah, we get it. They also waive the application fee for international students and other people living abroad. Really nice. So you can go through, yeah, you have to go through a process here to get a waiver. So here it says, how will I pay for Richmond? And it says, our commitment to meeting the full demonstrated financial need of all students admitted applicants ensures that talented students from all backgrounds have access to Richmond's exceptional education. So all applicants are eligible to compete for, you know, scholarships. So international students can be considered for scholarships. Here basically saying you have to submit a certificate of financial responsibility, which pretty much goes over what you can afford and what you can't afford. So here it's asking you, you know, you gotta go through all these things though, because I'm just giving a general overview, right? So it's asking if you can afford the tuition, which is a bunch of money. A whole lot of money, and you get to say no, and then you get to move forward and, you know, submit your financial certification thingy. And it does say that the earlier you apply for aid, the stronger your chances of receiving it, so make sure to take note of that. Oh my gosh, this is so nice. I never saw this before. So it says during the academic year, students may stay in residence halls overall school breaks at no cost, as long as they notify the school housing office in advance. I've never seen this before. Okay, I have not. I have not seen that before. That's super cool. So very similar to the previous school that we saw, if you have been enrolled in a school that teaches English, you know, for at least 4 years, you do not have to prove English proficiency. So yay English speaking countries. Okay, so to go over the application requirements, we're going to go to admission process and then click first year application materials. So these are the things you're going to need. You need to fill out your application, and you can get a waiver as previously mentioned. Then also you have your prompt. So for these ones, the essay prompt is actually required, right? You know, the other one, the Colgate University, your essay was an option, was optional, but here you have to respond to at least one of these, which are, you know, pretty easy things to talk about, you know. Minimum of 350 words, so you have to submit that, and then you have to submit your high school transcript, your secondary school report. Secondary school report is different from your high school transcript. It's more of a general thing that talks about you and about your school and about you in relation to your graduating class, right, as we can see here. So it's not just about your grades, right? They want to see your report, and it would be filled out by a school official. So yeah, then your recommendation letters, you have one from a school official and then up to 2 additional ones to be submitted. You have your test scores, and this is very similar to like the mid-year grade thingy, where if you submit your application for your final year, you have to kind of update them with your latest information. Then your art portfolio, which is similar to what we talked about, with like something about your talents and whatever. If you go over here, you can see more information about that. So just stuff about what you've been doing with your talent. And so yeah, definitely look into that, and just more optional documents that you think could help your application. So for international students, we do have a few other things that we already talked about before, like, you know, the financial certification form that allows you to prove that you have certain financial needs. Then English proficiency, as previously mentioned as well. And then it says a scanned photo of your passport. So I guess if you don't have a passport, you can apply to the school, which is kind of weird because that should have nothing to do with your application. I don't know if they could make this optional. Let's say you've not gotten your passport yet, but you still want to apply. I would think that you can send an email to the school and try to see if you can speak to someone that would kind of give you a waiver for this, because I don't think it should be that important to have a passport to just apply. But you know, every school with their own thing, right? So yeah, that's about it for Richmond. We have come to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that this helps, and I'll see you in my next video.